All right, party people. Welcome to a late night VOD review session. Kind of want to make this a fairly regular thing. I did a little bit in the past that I didn't record, but I figured maybe I can think through some stuff and record it and make a little bit of content, and maybe people find it interesting. So we're gonna take this point by point. Probably pretty short videos, usually focused around one point, maybe a week, maybe a day. We'll soon see what I figured out to do with it. But today we're actually going to look at King's Row Point A for the most part. And we're going to start off with the London Spitfire and the Paris Eternal. And without further ado, let's jump into this. So first and foremost, I want to kind of note what Paris is on first. The Moyer kind of interests me. I think, at least for me, that signifies maybe they've encountered a lot of triple DPS on King's Row in scrims. Maybe London particularly is interested in playing very spam heavy, very high damage compositions that you're going to need a healer that outputs a little bit more healing than Zenyatta, right? But overall, I think that's going to kind of be a little bit interesting if London goes into the mirror, which, if I remember the VOD correctly, because I did watch this live, they end up matching them in the GOAT's mirror. Another thing I want to note is the Brigitte position. I do believe she's outside of LOS, so the Sombra on the approach won't be seeing her. It is interesting. Could be hiding, threatening a potential, Sombra pick from Paris as well. If we hide the Brigitte, normally, is Nico a Brigitte player? Not really, but if there's going to be a person to flex, it probably would be him. So hiding the Brigitte here is a little bit interesting, kind of a cheeky way to, threaten some other kind of composition. Another thing that longtime fans of mine will remember is the Hanzo arrows. You should always Hanzo check. It's never a bad thing. You should always do that. Let's see what London rolls out on. All right, London's going to play their Sombra goats. Okay. Interesting. Now the Brigitte comes out. Obviously, you don't want to lose the frontline pressure because you're already lacking Discord Orb. So in the GOAT's mirror, the objective usually, from my understanding, is that you want to Discord, either the Brig or the Rhine and actually pressure them. Those are kind of the two, like in a vacuum, those are the two targets you want to hit with a Discord Orb. If there is someone that's playing out of position a little bit, you can hit them with a Discord Orb and pop them pretty quickly. But the Brigitte, if I'm going to guess why the Brigitte comes out, I think they've scouted at this point that they're not running a D.Va, and he has to come out. He's forced to come protect the choke, because if he doesn't and he really goes to hunt the Brigitte, they're just going to lose the choke fight. This composition that Paris is running is more sustainable, but they can't take very aggressive engages because they lack so much frontline pressure, so the Brigitte is definitely needed. Also, interesting to note, after kind of skimming through the VOD a little bit, the two places you're going to see guard kind of position is on this high ground and on this little perch up here. That's where he's going to primarily be sitting, looking for hacks. That's where he's going to actually set up his translocator as well. But just to kind of keep an eye out exactly where he is, and maybe some potential patterns to kind of keep an eye on, in later VODs when we see other Sombras approach that. Hack onto the D.Va. So we hack the D.Va. Okay, interesting. So we hack the D.Va. What does hacking D.Va give us? Well, that means we can't defense matrix our shield. So that means that London actually has a good amount of shield pressure. That means our Zarya right clicks are getting more damage on shield. It means our Lucio is actually dealing a little bit more damage to the shield. It means our Zen's getting more damage. It means we get uncontested fire strikes. Quite a lot of pressure is incoming for Paris, and that's why you actually see them back up, and that's why you see London engage. Cool little play from Cruz here that he's actually going to deal with her. Obviously, hip, we don't want to we don't want to have to waste fade here, but I think he probably will. Yeah, fades away. Interesting play from Cruz there. Let's back that up for a second. Cruz is actually going to go and contest the Sombra. I think if London commits to this, I think they could probably have just turned on hip here, force that out, and then they probably can capture Lucio as well. Do they boost, though? Do these speed boost? Hard to tell. But, you know, if we look at that positioning again, right? When you put Cruz to deal with the high ground and Hip's out of position, like he has to fade. That's one cooldown gone. Lucio into the Sombra. Again, that's not a trade I think the Sombra really wants to take. This puts Sombra out of the fight. Okay, so, you know, the game state that I'm envisioning. It should look something similar to this, probably putting Lucio here instead of where he is at now. In the team fighting, you know, London fighting about right abouts there, right? Something around that area, or maybe even rotating through cabinet. I don't know exactly, or closet, whatever you want to call it. I think they could probably put on a little bit more pressure because they are, again, lacking a lot of that front line threat without the Discord orb. They can't really speed away from you because the Lucio's on high ground. If he tries to come back, he actually has to play pretty safe. He can't just cut over. I think if he cuts over, you probably can get a pick there. Yeah, it's, you know, probably a safer play overall to just back up, wait for EMP, kind of play slow, wait for a hack, keep chipping away at them. But a potential threat you could maybe see them play a little bit more aggressively on. Sombra gets decloaked there, pretty interesting again, playing on the high ground. Again, guard constantly trying to go on these high grounds. It's a little bit of a pattern, I'd say. And strangely enough, I think they're actually sniping his translocator as well. When he throws it on this balcony, they get him out of the hack. They zone him pretty well. He's cloaked at this point. They see the translocator. You can see soon. He's looking right at the translocator here, and I think he actually throws a couple of right clicks. Yep, they're trying to pop the translocator. They actually get it, which is actually huge. And if you're translocating this way, you probably are going to be in this general vicinity, right? Like, that's not too out of the question. Again, goes for a hack, gets popped out instantly by the Moira. Great play from Nico here to pop them. What I don't particularly like is this Lucio play. I think it's just a set play they were going for. You know, I'm going to boop somebody into you. We can play off of that. And then Nico finds the Sombra, and it's just an unfortunate timing. But there again, if you're lacking the Zen and the Discord, how effectively are you actually going to get value out of booping them into you? Maybe it's not necessarily booping them into you as much as it is baiting resources or trying to win the resource duel. I think two schools of thought that I'm seeing most teams practice is the kind of the same thing that Christopher said on Tactical Crouch, right? This EU versus Overwatch League style, where the Overwatch League style is very much putting your Zarya, for instance, on the high ground and really leveraging positional advantages, where the EU style is very much let's sit on the high ground, or let's sit on the low ground, I'm sorry, and brawl it out and have this resource war, this kind of war of attrition. The first one to break, then we can engage, and then we can play aggressive. It seems like London, for the most part, kind of referencing a lot of their other games, of their other maps, they do tend to play very slow in this very brawly style, this war of attrition style, where a team like, for instance, the Washington Justice or Philadelphia Fusion, they're very much about rotating through alley, taking high ground, forcing point control, and putting the defensive team on the back foot and closet here. But Yeah, I think this Lucio play is either a... It's definitely a set play, and it's just unfortunate that the Brigida can't be with them to kind of pinch. Doesn't actually get any boops out. Doesn't look like. Can't see any resources used or lost, but that's a pretty big pick for London here. You don't have great defensive ults coming into this next fight. Again, attacking on point A on most hybrid maps is very advantageous to the attackers, barring, I think, like Numbani. Yeah, Numbani, it's not great for attackers. It's actually quite good for defenders. But for King's Row, the respawn advantage is definitely leaning towards the attackers. So any kind of trades that you'd take on the defense have to be a little bit more calculated. I think that pick there is actually quite big for London because they're going to have a pretty big power play, for instance, right? Guards coming online now. You see them start to push in. They know they have a power play. Hip pops ultimate. Coalescence is pretty bad. Let's face it. It's not a great ultimate. Just to buy a little bit of time to get Nico back into the fight. What I'd imagine is you're going to see next. Paris is going to want to rotate back, play safe. They are at a fairly significant health pool disadvantage in GOATs. I think one aspect that people don't tend to talk about a whole lot is health pools, right? If you're at a health pool disadvantage when you're running a Lucio, a Zenyatta, and a Brigida, there's not a lot of healing to go around. So when you're taking all this chip damage and it's adding up, you can't really stay on top of it. You're going to have to use resources you wouldn't normally have to want to use. So they're still not all the way. Let's check out Nico here, actually. So this is interesting. So we started at the beginning of the video talking about how Guard wants to play these high grounds, right? Let's actually not use blue. Guard wants to play these high grounds, right? And it's interesting that Nico I think they probably scouted this in prep, that Guard plays these high grounds, or it's just high grounds that Sombras normally play, just in general. What he's doing here is he's plugging this choke, right? If Sombra wants to rotate through here, she has to either translocate on the high ground, which Nico should probably see, or Guard has to go all the way around to this entrance, and that's obviously not ideal. So Nico is zoning Guard out of that choke point there. Again, look at the health disparities here. And that's even with a more sustain-focused support pick. I think... Is that the right call? If you're going to leave your Brigida down here, I don't think you can match London at this line. I think you have to be a little bit more patient to get your Brigida back and probably rotate down, heal up, and then explode forward. I don't think matching them in this choke, which again, you don't have Discord pressure, you don't have Zenyatta to really kind of threaten any damage output. You have a Moira that doesn't have Coalescence right now. So again, she's very much a sustain a character, right? She wants to sustain. She doesn't have a lot of frontline burst, and we see a little bit of a misposition. I generally think Paris should be rotating down and not matching them at closet. Resources used. Soon on his own there. That's not good. And I think that should be the point. So let's look at that engagement again. So again, I don't think Paris should match them. No, what's the chain of events? Ben gets solo grabbed. He shatters. This buys time. Cruz gets hacked. Not a lot of healing output again. They have to use Rally and Earth Shatter on top of Grav to turn this fight. It's not terrible for Paris because Paris should be coming into this next fight a little bit a little bit favored, I'd say. Unfortunately, he probably will have to swap off of Moira for point B, but does soon have to go into hotel here. So this is kind of a little bit of a blunder from Soon, and it's something that I see Paris do. I wouldn't say a lot, but it's something that tends to happen a little bit more often than I'd like. One map, I think actually versus London in particular, was as they were retaking with Monkey Goats against Orisa. I think, I don't remember the exact game state, but things get a little bit dicey after the mid fight. We'll kind of coin that, right? The fight started, and now we enter mid fight, and stuff goes kind of all different kinds of ways, right? We have 3 people on point. Nico's looking this way for some reason, and then soon rotates through and has no healing, and there's no chance of anybody healing him. I don't know exactly what happens there. I think comms might be breaking a little bit. There might not be, maybe Cruz isn't, calling the play. People trying to make hero plays. I'm not entirely too sure what happens there, but yeah, bit of an interesting point A. What really kind of throws me off is the Moira for the most part. I'm pretty surprised that they would roll out with Moira on A. I think it definitely is a lot safer if you are expecting DPS compositions, but for the most part in Overwatch League, we haven't seen too many point A Kings Row DPS comps. We do see the Sombra. I think this map is insanely good for Sombra, so I think you are going to see that a lot, but I don't think we've seen a ton of Moira. But in terms of London's perspective, I think for the most part they play this pretty well. Let's go back and take a look. Again, I think they could arguably play a little bit more aggressive there. They are constantly hacking D.Va. I think they hacked D.Va twice, and then they hacked Lucio once towards that last fight. Paris does a good job of zoning, but there again, to jump back to Paris there, for instance, I think the play, if you are going to pressure the Sombra out, I think you can just speed on them, to be completely honest. Like, yeah, like I've harped on the point that they're lacking is Zenyatta, but you can take more of a sustained fight, and you have so much shield advantage because their Sombra just isn't doing much damage to you. Actually, I don't know. You are fighting into a Zen. The Sombra doesn't do much shield damage to you. You have more sustain. Yeah, I think you could probably play a little bit more aggressive, try to force a pick there. The Sombra isn't bringing you literally any value. You have 6 players fully giving you value. The Sombra doesn't do much for you if she gets pressured out here. So I think what I would like to see, if they pressure her out, where is she going to translocate to? Nowhere. She can cloak. That's fine. I think Paris would probably speed on them and play pretty aggressively, which is something that they like to do. So I wouldn't have hated that. Again, I think London plays this fairly well. Paris, again, key snipe on the translocator here, forces guard to kind of get caught, and then Lucio, unfortunately, Cruz again. The mid fight analysis kind of plays out there as well, where we're trying to go for a set play and it doesn't necessarily work out and kind of get caught. But yeah, I think that's for the most part. I think that's it for the most part. Nothing too crazy. The big takeaways I'd say is noting guard playing around here. Paris's very quick reaction time to dealing with guard. And to kind of touch on the zoning of the Sombra. You actually see this if you go back and watch the entire series. You see this map play out. You see Kings Row play out, and they have a hard time actually dealing with the Sombra really efficiently. And by the time they hit Route 66, where London pulls out the Sombra again, you see them really start to learn. Again, probably Damon and Feifei and Saita all talking to the players during halftime, talking about, okay, if we get the Sombra out, if we force her out, we need to play aggressively onto the point. We need to play aggressively on them. The Sombra can't do anything to you if she's translocated out. So, kind of a testament to their coaching staff that you can kind of go and look at yourself. But yeah, I think that's it for this point A. Love the solo grabs, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.